All right, I think we're all ready to go. So I'll now bring the regular meeting of Township Council for the purpose of a public hearing to order. And the first thing I have to do is read the preamble. A public hearing is a statutory requirement under Section 464 of the Local Government Act and must be held before third reading of a community plan, rural land use bylaw, zoning bylaw, land use contract amendment bylaw, heritage designation bylaw, or heritage revitalization agreement bylaw, which would change the use or density of use of property. During a public hearing, council acts in a quasi-judicial role for the purpose of allowing persons who believe their interest in property is affected by a bylaw, permit, or other matter to make representations to council either orally or by written submission, or add comments or elaborate upon correspondence that may have already been presented to council concerning the bylaws. It is important to note that council is not in a position to receive any additional information on the bylaws following the public hearing as dictated by case law. The hearing procedure involves an explanation from the Community Development Division on the purpose of the proposed bylaws and to hear from individuals regarding the bylaws. In order to ensure that all interested parties have a reasonable opportunity to be heard, speakers are requested to keep representations as brief and succinct as possible and no longer than 5 minutes, excluding time required for questions from council. Speakers will be asked to state their name, neighborhood, and city for the record, and if referring to prepared remarks, to submit copies of these to the township clerk. Decorum must be maintained at all times. This includes refraining from applause, booing, or heckling. To assist with large numbers of speakers, individuals must advise the township clerk and sign the speakers list prior to the commencement of the public hearing. The names on the speakers list will be read out during the hearing. Individuals who have already addressed council and wish to add further submissions will wait until the people that have not yet addressed council have had an opportunity to speak. All submissions and speakers lists are considered part of the public record. Council members should not express their views nor debate the bylaws, but may question speakers to clarify particular points in the submissions. Council may consider third reading and final adoption at this meeting or at its next regular meeting to be held on Monday, December 13th, 2021 at the Fraser River Presentation Theatre on the 4th floor of 20338 65 Avenue, Langley, British Columbia. So with that, I'll ask for a motion to adopt and receive the agenda items. Councillor Arneson, second by Councillor Davis. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. There are no development permits. We have 3 public hearings, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Richardson to go through the zoning bylaw amendments, parking regulations, township-wide excluding Fort Langley bylaw 5698.
Well, thank you, Worship. Bylaw 5698 proposes township-wide amendments excluding Fort Langley to parking provisions in the township zoning bylaw to change requirements for offices, financial institutions, and restaurants, as well as add parking requirements for bicycles and amend parking requirements for people with disabilities. The bylaw presented reflects council's amendment at first and second reading to set parking requirements for retail, office use, and restaurants at 1 space per 35 square meters or 376.7 square feet of gross floor area. Staff recommends support of bylaw 5698 as noted on page 7 of council's agenda. Notice of this public hearing was advertised in local newspapers on November 11th and 18th in compliance with provincial legislation and township bylaw. No written submissions have been received, and there are no individuals noted on the speakers list.
Great. Thank you very much. At this point, I'll ask for submissions from the public for bylaw 5698. And I'll ask for second time submissions from the public for bylaw 5698. And for a third time, submissions from the public regarding bylaw 5698. Seeing no submissions from the public, and I guess the township is the proponent, I'll close the public hearing for bylaw 5698. We'll go through the 3 public hearings and then I'll ask council if they wish to consider the readings after that. So number 2 is zoning bylaw amendments, parking regulations, Fort Langley bylaw number 5749. Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, Worship. Bylaw 5749 proposes Fort Langley area-specific requirements to parking provisions in the township zoning bylaw to change requirements for offices, financial institutions, and restaurants, as well as add parking requirements for bicycles and amend parking requirements for people with disabilities. The bylaw presented reflects council's amendment at first and second reading to set parking requirements for retail, office use, and restaurants at 1 space per 35 square meters or 376.7 square feet of gross floor area. Staff recommends support of bylaw 5749 as noted on page 4 of council's agenda. Notice of this public hearing was advertised in local newspapers on November 11th and 18th in compliance with provincial legislation and township bylaw. 2 written submissions have been received, and there are no individuals noted on the speakers list.
Thank you. So at this time, I'll ask for submissions from the public for bylaw number 5749. And a second time, submissions from the public for bylaw 5749. And for a third time, submissions from the public regarding bylaw 5749. Seeing no submissions, I now close the public hearing. There are 2 written submissions. So, yeah, so we've received those, and I believe council is in receipt of those. Yes. Okay, so thank you for that. So I'll close the public hearing for bylaw 5749. Move on to number 3. This is official community plan amendment and rezoning application number 100198 and development permit application number 101124 and bylaw 5734, 5735. Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, Your Worship. The subject Central Gordon Estate Neighborhood Plan Amendment, rezoning and development permit applications pertain to a proposed development consisting of 41 townhouse units at 6834 204 Street and 20441 68th Avenue. The 1.8-acre site is designated multifamily in the Willoughby Community Plan, and Townhouse C, Street Greenway, and Visual Green Street in the Central Gordon Estate Neighborhood Plan. This air photo depicts the site located on the northeast corner of 204 Street and 68th Avenue. Proposed Central Gordon Estate Neighborhood Plan Amendment Bylaw 5734 proposes to increase the permitted density from 20 to 22.3 units per acre to accommodate 5 additional units. Rezoning Bylaw 5735 rezones the subject site from suburban residential SR2 to comprehensive development zone 164 to accommodate the proposal. This slide indicates the proposed site plan with vehicular access from 204 Street on an interim basis until the ultimate access can be achieved from 204 8th Street. The next series of slides are renderings, elevations, and the landscape plan as indicated in development permit 101124. Staff recommends support of Central Gordon Estate Neighborhood Plan Amendment Bylaw 5734 and rezoning Bylaw 5735, subject to 8 conditions, and Council's consideration of development permit 10124, subject to 3 conditions listed on page 10 of Council's agenda. Your Worship, a total of 593 notices were mailed out, 2 written submissions have been received, and there were no individuals noted on the speakers list.
Great, thank you very much. At this point, I'd ask if there are any submissions from the public regarding C3. This is bylaw 5734 and bylaw 5735 and development permit 101124. I'll ask for a second time for any public submissions regarding C3 and for a third time any public submissions regarding C3. Seeing none, there would be no requirement for the proponent to provide any explanation unless he wishes to provide an explanation to the written submission. So at this point, there's an opportunity for the proponent. Don't see the proponent wishing to come forward, so I now close the public hearing for C3. Now, so that takes us to an opportunity if we wish to go through the readings. There are 7 members of council present. A 2/3 vote will be 5 members of council in favor. So I'll leave it to council if they wish to proceed with the third and final reading for C1. If anybody would wish to move that. If not, Councilor Kuntz moves it. Is there a seconder? Okay, Councilor Davis. So this goes straight to a vote. If we could just put the gallery back up and stop sharing the screen, I can see all the hands then. Okay, so this is on C1. This is only to see if we proceed to the readings. I'll call the question. There's no debate on this part. So I'll just call the question. All those in favor and all those opposed. Councillor Ferguson opposed. It can proceed to consideration for third and final reading. So I now would entertain a motion for third and final reading. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Kuntz, and a seconder. Councillor Arneson. Discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Ferguson opposed. The motion carries. Move on to C2. Again, the same thing. I'd entertain a motion if you wish to proceed to third and final reading? I don't see any. Oh, Councillor Kunst moves to proceed. Councillor Arneson seconds it. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor and opposed? Councillor Whitmarsh, Councillor Ferguson opposed, so that carries on a 5-2. Now entertain a motion to consider third and final reading. Councillor Arneson moves it. Councillor Kunst seconds it. Discussion. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Richter opposed. It carries. Move on to C3. Again, same thing. Is there a motion to consider third reading on C3? Councillor Davis moves it. Seconder, Councillor Whitmarsh. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor and opposed? That carries unanimously. And now I need a motion to move third reading of C3. Councillor Whitmarsh moves it. Councillor Davis seconds it. Any discussion? Call the question. All those in favor and opposed? Councillor Arneson opposed. Councillor Richter opposed. It carries. So with that, I'll ask for a motion to terminate. Councillor Davis moves termination. Seconder, Councillor Whitmarsh. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. And see everyone in a couple of weeks, if not sooner.